Today, we're comparing two films separated by more than 6 decades, but united in more ways than one. We're talking James Whale's 1931 classic Frankenstein and Steven Spielberg's 1993 blockbuster Jurassic Park. I'm Antonia Carlotta, and this is Universally Me, the channel for all things Universal and classic horror. My family started Universal, and they made many of the Universal monster movies that we know and love, including Frankenstein. Frankenstein is one of the most important films in the Universal monster legacy. Adapted from the novel by Mary Shelley, it's often considered one of the first works of science fiction. And Frankenstein, starring Boris Karloff, defined horror for a generation of moviegoers, introducing them to themes of creation, morality, humanity, and influencing countless books, shows, and movies ever since. Jurassic Park was a groundbreaking achievement in filmmaking, using cutting-edge CGI and practical effects to bring dinosaurs to life in ways audiences had never seen before. Jurassic Park was an instant hit, a total thriller that set a new standard for visual effects. Both Frankenstein and Jurassic Park became more than just movies. They became legends, they became part of our culture. They changed the way that we think about science and ambition, the way that we tell stories. So with that in mind, let's jump into a conversation about what else these two films have in common, and though they're older films, what they can teach us even today. Let's start by talking about the central figures in these movies, the so-called monsters. In Frankenstein, our monster is a tragic hero, pieced together by corpses, brought to life by electricity, and Henry Frankenstein. In Jurassic Park, our monsters are dinosaurs resurrected through genetic engineering and Dr. Hammond. At first look, you might think that these monsters are pretty different, right? And no, I'm not just going to say that they're like big or green or talking roars and grunts. It is so much bigger than that. Both the creature and the dinosaurs represent humanity's desire to control life itself. Dr. Frankenstein creates life for the sake of science, for ambition. Dr. Hammond, yes, he's driven by some of that science and ambition, but he really wants to create the dinosaurs for entertainment and profit. Their drives are kind of different, but their mistake is the same. Neither stops to think about the consequences of their actions. To quote Jurassic Park itself,
"Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should."
And both films bring up really great questions, like what is our responsibility as a creator? Should we pursue scientific knowledge at all costs? And who's responsible when things go wrong? Of course, the creations break free of their creators with devastating results, and I can't help but notice how neither scientist takes responsibility. Henry Frankenstein chains the monster up, then abandons him, leaving him basically for dead at the hands of Dr. Waldman. Dr. Hammond, he uses all sorts of denial and avoidance tactics, never really acknowledging his own part in the recklessness of creating Jurassic Park. Let's talk about the tones of the films. There are some major elements that are quite different. Frankenstein is a gothic horror film, heavily utilizing German expressionism. Moody, atmospheric, unsettling. The monster's first appearance is lit dramatically, framed like a nightmare. I use this word a lot, I know, but it is truly iconic. Jurassic Park does differ in that it feels more like an adventure film. It absolutely has elements of horror, some good jump scares, dramatic scenes, but it is much more of a balance between the wonder and horror. There are two scenes that feel particularly similar to me between Jurassic Park and Frankenstein. The first in Jurassic Park is when we see the dinosaurs for the first time. It is awe-inspiring. The music, the visuals, everything about that scene tells us that this is a miracle of science. I find myself feeling very similarly in the scene with the laboratory. With the electricity buzzing, we see the table lift and descend, and the monster first come to life. Elizabeth, Dr. Waldman, Victor, Fritz, and Henry Frankenstein all look on with shock and amazement. The second scene that I can't help but connect between Jurassic Park and Frankenstein is in Jurassic Park, the opening scene. We never see the creature in this scene, but we see it's caged up in a shipping container, treated with fear and disdain. The handlers surround the dinosaur, weapons drawn, bright lights shining into the cracks of the container. This scene results in the death of one handler. I can't help but think of this just like the scene after Fritz dies. The creature lumbers in, and Dr. Frankenstein and Dr. Waldman are ready for him, already on the offensive. Instead of blinding lights, the creature's faced with fire. And instead of any kind of nurturing or kindness, they instantly attack. Of course the creature's going to attack in return. And of course, in both films, the creatures ultimately escape and they become tales of chaos and survival. And what I love in both films is the mix of emotions that you feel. Amazement, fear, even sympathy. In both movies, it's like you're so amazed by the power that they have, but terrified of it at the same time. And both films remind us that nature cannot be controlled. I think we've already touched a little on the idea of pushing the boundaries of science and technology, but I can't help but realize that how for both films, that's true on screen and behind the scenes. There is so much in Frankenstein that was absolutely groundbreaking when it first came out. When Jack Pierce, the makeup artist, first conceived of the monster's look, he created a life-size model to show to Junior Lemley. And Junior Lemley was not convinced that he could do it on a human. When he asked Jack Pierce, Jack obviously said yes, and Junior was like, all right, we will take it to the limit. They used spirit gum, cotton, collodion, rubber. It was a process that took hours every day. Boris Karloff was truly a trooper. It's so easy for us to take makeup for granted now, but this was brand new at the time. And the laboratory too. The lights, the test tubes, electricity, the equipment. It's all practically cliche now, but it originated in this film. Jurassic Park, of course, revolutionized special effects too. Steven Spielberg's decision to combine animatronics with CGI was a game changer. It pushed the limits of film, and I think that's part of why the film holds up so well today. It is amazing to see how these movies, almost 70 years apart, used cutting-edge technology to tell their stories and immerse audiences in a world that they had never been before. And lastly, I think both films do a really good job tapping into the cultural fears of the time. When Frankenstein came out in 1931, the world was grappling with the Great Depression, and Frankenstein feels very representative of that. The ill-fitting clothes, the big working boots. He's an outcast, misunderstood, trying to make sense of the world around him. I think there was also this question of science and technology and the part it played in society. The ethics of human experimentation, the eugenics movement was gaining momentum around that time. I think Frankenstein captures a lot of that. Fast forward to Jurassic Park, and I think we're tapping into a whole new set of fears. We now have DNA sequencing and the Human Genome Project, and all these questions of what are the consequences of cloning or genetic engineering. And there's like that saying, the more that you know, the less you think you know. And I can imagine in this time with so many technological advancements that people were probably feeling a certain overwhelm or a lack of control. And I think that that is beautifully captured in Jurassic Park. So what's the takeaway from all this? At their core, Frankenstein and Jurassic Park, while they may look very different, they are in fact very much the same. They are both about the limits of human ambition. They remind us that science and technology, while they can be amazing tools, come with ethical responsibilities. And when we push the boundaries without considering the consequences, we risk unleashing forces that we can't control. Both Jurassic Park and Frankenstein leave us with a sense of wonder, but a stark warning. And whether it's a creature made from corpses or a theme park filled with dinosaurs, the moral remains the same. Nature will always have the final say. So, of course, I want to know in the comments what you guys think. Did I miss anything, or do you just think that I'm totally off the mark? Don't forget, if you join with a paid membership, you get tons of bonus content, rare photos, videos, podcasts, and more, and it's a great way to support my work. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.